Welcome to the Region of Solution podcast, where we give you insider's take on the impactful work and initiative being undertaken at ESCAP. I'm Sompot Suphutthamongkhon. It has long been debated if inclusive growth is an oxymoron. However, inclusive businesses are leading the way forward by proving that it is possible to provide goods and services in a way that is both profitable and beneficial to people and communities. Joining us today to dive deep into the inclusive businesses sector are Kirti, Mishra, and Santosh Gupta from Ecociate and Marta, Perez, Cuso from ESCAP's Trade, Investment, and Innovation Division. ESCAP and Ecociate have been running a year-long coaching program in India, helping 20 agribusinesses in Telangana and Haryana. These businesses have since attracted $20.5 million in private investment, and this continues to grow. Ecociate has also launched an inclusive business ecosystem network designed to keep supporting agribusinesses in adopting inclusive models. May I ask our guests to introduce yourself just a little bit?
Thank you for having us. I'm Kirti Mishra. I'm a director at Ecociate and having more than 25 years of experience in development sector.
Hi, I'm Santosh Gupta. I'm also director at Ecociate Consultants and been working in the social and development sector since last 15 years or so. I have studied rural management and been working in these sectors since after completing my graduation.
My name is Marta Perez Cuso, and I lead ESCAP's program promoting inclusive business. I've been working over 20 years with governments as part of the UN, promoting innovation policies, and now in particularly innovation policies that bring more inclusive outcomes.
So one of the common questions we ask on every episode is, what solutions are you working on for the region?
The solution we generally offer as Ecociate is primarily around developing sustainable agriculture solutions. And within that, we largely focus on agroecology and regenerative agriculture. Along with that, we work on the food systems, and hence nutrition is one of our core focus, along with rural entrepreneurship to promote in particular the women entrepreneurs. So that's kind of a domain where we offer our services to international and other kind of development agencies, those working in India and some parts of Asia and also Africa.
So I have been closely working with private sector companies which are into the sustainable sourcing. So helping them connecting with the communities and also help them in sourcing from different regions, identifying the product and commodities which are geographic specific. So my work is more with the private sector players to help them in implementing their solutions at the ground.
How about you, Marta?
So my work is slightly different. I work primarily with governments, so to encourage them to put in place policies and programs that help replicate some of the practices that Kirti and Santosh are talking about, how to engage the private sector for supporting the SDGs. And in my case, we work with government agencies to showcase them how businesses can thrive while contributing to social goods. And for example, we do case studies of businesses that are doing good while doing well. We also then support governments, interested governments, and putting in place strategies to encourage the private sector to do more. For example, work with countries like Sri Lanka to develop a national strategy to promote inclusive and sustainable businesses. And then we also help them implement some of these strategies, providing them with advisory services on designing specific policy instruments and measures.
What are some of the biggest challenges in making businesses more inclusive, and how can they be overcome?
So we have been working very closely with businesses since last 2 years or so, specifically as part of the UNESCAP's Inclusive Business Coaching Program. And then some of the challenges which we realized are, one is realization of the businesses of the fact that the communities which are the marginalized or the farmers which are smallholders, which are close to 80% in India, could be a business opportunity. So businesses see their businesses more as in someone who can afford their solutions, but they doesn't look at the large numbers which are there. And this is because of their own orientations, because businesses especially the ones who are the startups, they are coming from the technology colleges or the universities. Their entire orientation around social sector is very limited. So they don't feel like this could also be a community which can give them substantial consumer base in the revenues.
I think these are two spot on challenges. The first is, as Santosh was saying, is helping business think how they can design their product and service to bring value to low income groups. Entrepreneurs, we've been educated in traditional business models that are oriented to create a profit. And we're not trained to think about how we can also bring value to low income groups, to marginalized women, to those in rural areas. And when confronted with some common issues of enabling women to participate in the workforce, we are not trained with those tools. So, helping businesses be more imaginative and think about, for example, how you could provide education services to women that cannot afford to spare 6 months to study because they have to bring an income home. Or how can you enable a farmer to sell their ugly carrots when supermarkets only want to buy pretty vegetables? Or how can you provide employment to women that cannot leave their household because they have to meet household duties, take care of the elderly or the young? How can the company address that and still give them an income opportunity? And then the second challenge, as always, it's money. It's access to finance to sustain your business and help it grow.
So, what do you feel motivates business to go beyond just making profits and focus on real lasting impact in communities?
In such segments where a lot of people you are dealing with are poor, the value creation at the unit level, at the consumer level, or at the farmer level is really minuscule. And hence, the ability to really do scalability and ensure that you have a volume at the end of the day to generate bigger business or bigger or real profit is something very critical. Apart from that, I think there is a need to really see the ready to have investment appetite towards creating impact. So if these are the things are there with the business entities, they can move into this direction. I will just give one example. We have one partner who has a very good solution in terms of doing soil testing. So in traditional Indian method, soil testing, there are laboratories which take 600, 700 boxes to really get into a test, and people need to travel, which all put together is a good amount of cost. He can do it at the level of at a very minuscule price, less than 100 rupees, let's say. But with that device, he can actually go all over through social capital base called in India community resource person and expand its business all over.
I think with my work with companies which are into sustainable sourcing, this is not only about creating impact at the ground, but also looking at businesses on sustainability. So if I look into the spice sector closely, the companies need to ensure that they procure the commodities which can meet the requirement of their end buyers, which are, if I look into the Indian markets, the end buyers might be in USA, Europe, or other developed nations. They want certain sustainability standards to put in. In order to happen this, companies need to work very closely with the communities at the ground. And these communities are the smallholder farmers, women, and all of these things. I can take an example of the companies which work on bioresources. So when you work on the bioresources, you also need to ensure that forests are being protected so that the supply of raw materials which you need for sustaining your businesses is being ensured. So there's a symbiotic or there's a synergies between businesses on sustainability while working with the communities to make both social and environmental impact. So I now see inclusivity more from a business opportunity rather than it being just philanthropy.
All right. Marta, so do you have a moment in your work that really stuck you? Something very inspired or very unexpected?
For me, in my work, the inspiration often comes from these entrepreneurs that are really have a very clear direction of driving business that not only creates a profit but also creates a valuable impact. And I've seen young women very clear driving businesses to create that impact in a way that is sustainable and that really has low income communities in their minds to bring value. I'm in awe of how reflective they are and innovative they are to address those challenges to include those groups. For example, Selena, she works in Celine. It's a women-led handloom business in Sri Lanka, where they provide employment, better jobs to over 1,000 women. One of the ways they do that is by bringing the work to the home of the women, because many of these women could not afford to go to the factory and work in the factory because they have household duties that they have to attend. Selena is that she does not only stay there, she's continuously innovating and trying to create more value. So I think a couple of years ago, she used technology and blockchain to introduce traceability in their production chain. So now consumers can see when they buy a product, they can see exactly what are the natural resources that have been used and who is earning an income and how much from that product that has been bought.
When we started discussing with UNESCAP about this larger definition of inclusive business and what does it entails in terms of the features, characteristic, one company whom we got in the beginning of our journey was Safe Harvest. And this company was working to promote zero pest products and sourcing it directly from the farmer producer organizations. So if you look at both end, it is a very inclusive model where they're directly sourcing from the farmers. At the other end, to the consumers, they're supplying the best quality food items. And they have a size to offer in terms of their turnover. And that struck me, if this person for last 10 years trying all his best to promote something like this, we should give him our support to really make it to the next level.
So there was a company, or there is a company called Azad Agro, which was not working in Haryana, but we forced them to work in Haryana as part of inclusive business coaching program. And we were surprised to say that within 3 months of their work, they could work with the state government of Haryana to mobilize the subsidy for farmers in the tune of $50 to $100. And the subsidy has really helped farmers to go for a new crop, which was more profitable than the crop which they were doing.
What can individuals, whether business owner, consumers, or investor alike, can do to support more inclusive business model?
I think generally I look at larger ecosystems. So while individual business and consumers can do, my understanding is at the ecosystem level, there are large number of organizations of stakeholders who can really channelize this IB force to become bigger. And one example, if I give in India, we have an institution called National Rural Livelihood Mission. They are the custodian of all the self-help groups in India, and these are in millions. And of late, they have a larger focus to work with private sector organizations because they have to do a lot of offering a lot of services in agriculture. They are sourcing, they are marketing. So this entity needs a lot of engagement with private sector. And I see if that entity becomes a bigger partner, we can actually support a large number of inclusive businesses to become partner with community, and in the process government comes to the picture and gives them an enabling environment. So my take would be, while rest of the stakeholders are very important, if we channelize this kind of resources available in India, we can expedite the process of promoting IBs in a magnificent way.
Now investors are driving a lot of things. We are seeing how investors are playing a critical role in ESG. Similarly, if investors can have some metrics to support or to give preference for the companies or the businesses which are inclusive or which has been accredited as inclusive, there might be other businesses who can also come in. We are hearing about financial instruments such as blended finance, patient capital, and among others. If this could come at a larger scale, that might also motivate businesses to be more inclusive.
We need action not just at the individual level, but at the ecosystem level. And Of course, each of us as individual actors can also do things. And I would say be curious about the opportunities that may be available to you if you're an investor, on how engage with other investors in the impact space to learn how they're investing for social impact and for sustainability. If you're a government official, come to one of ESCAP's events talking and discussing about inclusive business. And I can assure you that you will be inspired by the work of many business leaders. And if you're a citizen and a consumer, maybe be curious about the products that you buy and the holidays that you take. Do they bring better value for low income groups and for local communities?
If you could change one thing about how business operate today, what would it be?
The companies need to work with social capital base. That's how they become inclusive. In that context, if you look at from a social sector or social capital base, a lot of social organizations are very active on ground. I would pursue or promote a framework where there would be better collaboration and synergy between private sector and development sector players. There are a number of examples when we look at various development projects and also government, but this one thing would really expedite the process of bringing more inclusive business because they need each other.
I'll say if businesses can look into collaborations, then competition, both are C words, but now we are seeing businesses used to see each other as competing ones. But what we have learned from our coaching program is there is a lot of opportunities or synergies even among the businesses to come together. So if businesses can collaborate with each other to deliver and give solutions to the communities, that might create a lot of impact.
I would say that perhaps the biggest challenge now is access to finance for these enterprises. And while there's finance available, there are investors out there, many of the financial mechanisms are not suited for the type of enterprises that we are talking together. We are talking here that needs patient capital, a bit more affordable because of the higher cost of going out there to rural areas to working with smaller farmers. The one thing I will wish to see in the coming year.
Thank you for sharing your incredible stories and expertise. Inclusive businesses prove that profits and purpose can go hand in hand, and your work is clearly driving change in that sector. Before we wrap up, what would you like our listener to take away from today's conversation?
That businesses can do good while doing well, and that there is a good reason for governments to encourage businesses to do more.
One thing I would see as important is for MSME. I think they need to be trained on inclusive business models, and they need to at least go through some strong orientation so that they see the value in the ground in terms of how they can change their business and also become profitable.
So I will say, after hearing today's conversation, if listeners can identify some inclusive businesses in their surroundings and can share their stories on social media platforms or even within their own networks, which might inspire inclusive businesses to do better. So my appeal is to identify inclusive businesses close to you and help them grow.
Thank you. That's all for today's episode of our Region of Solutions. A big thank to our guests for sharing their expertise with us. Don't forget to follow us on social media and subscribe to our podcast for more inspiring stories from ESCAP. Until next time, stay curious, stay engaged, and be part of the solution for our region. Have a great week ahead. Thank you.